Hi, Jeremy here, Modern Vitality. In today's video, we're taking a deep look at the 5 triggers that can sabotage your healing progress. So if you're dealing with a complex chronic health condition like fibromyalgia or Lyme disease or mold exposure, chronic fatigue syndrome, long haulers, candida, Epstein-Barr, adrenal fatigue, there's a ton of these. Anything with autoimmune or inflammatory component as well, there can be a variety of symptoms, which you're probably familiar with, right? You could be looking at brain fog, exhaustion, chronic pains, wandering pains, all this stuff. It's just like your body's going wild, right? The inflamed feeling. Sometimes it's hard to even describe that kind of swelling, inflamed feeling, or internal vibrations as your nervous system is having all these issues. Trouble sleeping, depression, right? There's a lot of symptoms. So we can be all over the map here in terms of what's the body doing, what systems are out of order, like how's your immune system, how's your digestive system, how's your neuroadrenal, right? Are you overwhelmed? How's your blood circulation? Are you getting cold hands, cold feet, that kind of thing, right? How are your hormones? How's your mitochondria? All these things we can be looking at. And what this is going to come down to is starting to organize the complexity of these complex chronic health conditions and this whole situation. We're going to start to organize it into 4 stages, right? Sometimes 5, there's like a bonus. If you're familiar with my work, you've seen me break this down. But one of the most important things is to start to understand the triggers, because once you've got yourself organized and you start to know what to do to heal and to get better, you still have to be aware of the triggers because we live in an imperfect world. Yeah, you can't just be totally removed from reality up on a mountaintop somewhere all by yourself and just meditating all day, right? That's not how it works. Our life is not a 24/7 retreat center and that's it, right? We have life to engage with. And so we can get affected by certain types of triggers. And it's a very good idea to start to understand. In general, you want to understand all the triggers because we're humans. All of them are going to affect us. And you want to understand your specific and unique triggers, the things that really affect you strongly, so you can start to be smart about this. So in today's video, no matter what disease diagnosis, or if you don't have a diagnosis, right, it doesn't matter. If something's off in your body and you're trying to figure out how to get better, it's very, very important that we minimize the triggers, we minimize the things that are holding you back. And I'm going to explain this in depth. Let's get started. Because our body is a complex system, there are rules of the game. And what I'm going to tell you is if we look at the symptom level, right, we can have symptoms that come from any system of the body. So you may have symptoms that come from your immune system, for example, like you're getting a lot of inflammation, or you can see there's a lot of pathogenic biofilm. So for example, if you've learned how to look at your tongue, I have other videos on that, how to look at your tongue, you might look into that, and you see a lot of slime on your tongue, right, then you know that you're having an inflammatory issue and you're getting these biofilms coming up. If you're getting a lot of swelling, right, maybe due to an inflammatory issue. So you can have symptoms that come from your immune system. You can have symptoms that come from your digestive system. A lot of this is, that's where they manifest, right? It's like everything lands there. So for example, you're getting bloated, or you're having very crazy and weird bowel movements, or none at all, right? There's a lot of things to look at with that. You might be getting heartburn. Maybe you're having really weird tastes in your mouth, bad breath, right? These kinds of things where the symptoms are landing in your digestive system. That's where your body's expressing the imbalance. Right? This is a way to look at this. You may have things that are manifesting in your nervous system, trouble sleeping, anxiety, right? Sometimes the libido issues can come from that too. The nervous system's where that kind of starts to regulate. Where you feel burned out, you're feeling frustrated, jumping on everybody, right? Or you're getting depressed even. All these things could be manifesting in your nervous system. Tension, right? Jaw tension, tight shoulders. That's where it's landing. Okay, we can keep going. Blood circulation, right? If you're having circulatory issues, maybe you're having very low blood pressure. Maybe you're getting lightheaded a lot. Maybe you're having cold hands and feet. You're not getting a lot of peripheral circulation, right? You can have symptoms that kind of live in these systems, right? So those are the symptoms. That's where they pop up. We're talking about triggers. What gets really interesting, and if you followed my work at all, then you probably are familiar with 4-stage model and classifying things. Like I just classified the body systems. We can also look at triggers this way. And once we look at triggers, I'm going to show you how the triggers and the symptoms connect. And once you get that, you can start to unlock the complexity, and you can take something that's basically a black box of trying to figure out what's going on in your body. Most doctors don't know how to do this. I'm going to teach you right now on YouTube. Okay, so pay attention. Get your paper and get your pencil out, because this is really important. You got to understand this. If you have triggers insulting your body, right, they're going to come in different flavors. They're going to come in different categories. So you may have immune triggers. Right? What's an immune trigger? Anything that challenges your immune system. A lot of times that could be a pathogen exposure. So for example, you're around a bunch of kids with snotty noses, or you get on an airplane and somebody's coughing in your face, right? These kinds of things. You get germs. You move some furniture around and you find a bunch of mold in your carpet, and now you just got this big mold hit in your face, right? Immune trigger, of course. Other immune triggers might be weather and climate changes. So for example, if you're traveling, if you're going to fly somewhere that's got a whole different region than where you live, like maybe you live somewhere that's cold in the winter and you want to go to a place that's warm for the summer. So maybe you go from a cold, damp winter and you go to like Arizona or somewhere where it's warm and dry. Your body, your immune system has to adapt to different climates in terms of temperature and humidity, basically, right? There's also kind of windiness and things like that. But mainly it's hot, cold, dry, damp. And your immune system can get used to whatever your local environment is. And you can start to come to terms with the pathogens that hang out in that type of environment, that type of climate, right? But if you change and you go somewhere else, you're going to be exposed to different heat, different moisture levels. So your immune system actually has to adjust to that. That's a challenge for your immune system. So traveling is a big one because you get around traveling, you get around other people, you get their germs on you. You're also moving from one kind of bioregion microclimate to another type of microclimate. And that can be an immune trigger, right? So we have immune system, and then digestive triggers could be your foods, right? So again, traveling is a big one because now you're eating different types of foods from different places. Or maybe you don't eat the same quality of food because you're out somewhere, everybody you're with, everybody's really hungry, and you have to just go to some kind of restaurant that you wouldn't normally have eaten at, and you're eating different things, and there's who knows what. Maybe you stay off of sugar and you avoid gluten and these kinds of things, but then you go to a restaurant and you're eating, obviously it has sugar and gluten in it and all this stuff. So you're giving yourself new foods that are triggering you, right? Things that maybe your body doesn't do well with. So there's what you eat. There's also how you eat. So maybe, you have a late night and you're eating later than you much normally would eat. And you're having issues from that, right? You're getting a digestive trigger because you're putting food in your body right before you lay down to go to sleep. So now your digestive system's going to have a hard time with that. It starts to kind of ferment and rot in there. So you're affecting your digestive system, right? So you're giving problems to that system, basically. There's what you eat, there's how you eat. If we look at stage 3, right? Stage 1, immune, stage 2, digestive, stage 3, neuroadrenal. If we go to there, we're basically looking at stressors. What are the triggers that work against your nervous system? Being around people that are inconsiderate and rude and narcissists and whatever else, like just being around people that don't have good boundaries and walk all over you, or energy vampires, right? Being in stressful situations in general. We can create our own stress too, by the way, like of course with our self-talk, right? We can work ourselves up into a stage 3 trigger. If we're not careful, we can become our own bully, right? So these kinds of things are important to keep track of. Stage 4, blood circulation. What are blood circulation triggers? Well, weird posture, right? There's one. So if you're always on the phone and kinking your neck, right? Or if you're at your computer and it's kind of a crooked desk situation and you're like, your keyboard's here and I say this stuff, it sounds crazy, but I know plenty of people. I've had tons of patients who come through with this weird ergonomic workplace setup where they're basically doing this all day and they're wondering why their neck hurts, right? Of course, you get good at what you practice, so try to sort yourself out where you're aligned. Sleeping in weird positions, sleeping on your arm and then your fingers are numb. These are all blood circulation type triggers. What's a more severe blood circulation trigger? A physical injury, car accidents. A ton of folks with complex chronic health conditions have car accidents as a history, many car accidents, and they get injured in the car accidents and it never quite heals right. These are blood circulation triggers. Right. I should also mention back in stage 3, traumas, right? Abuse, right? Not just stress. I kept it kind of mild there. I forgot to go to the more intense stuff, but dealing with jerks is a whole different thing than dealing with traumatic abuse, right? It's a much higher amplitude experience. So that can trigger your nervous system, right? That can create damage there. So we've done stage 1, 2, 3, 4, stage 5, bonus stage 5, which is all about boosting and kind of living life. By the time most people get to stage 5 through my process, they're like ready to travel and have fun again. But we can still get triggered in stage 5, and that comes from depletion. So that's anytime the battery starts draining, meaning what happens usually when people go through this process, right? They go, okay, I'm going to heal. And then we take it step by step. And as they start to get their life back, they feel like they want to make up for lost time because they've been missing out on a lot of things, right? Which is normal and understandable. And I get it. So overwork is a big one. Like, oh yeah, I've had to say no to a bunch of clients and I feel like I could make way more money if I was feeling healthy and feeling better. So they start going through a process, they feel better, and now they start immediately wanting to take on all those clients, and maybe they bite off a little more than they can chew, and they get a little bit too depleted. It's a stage 5 trigger, right? It's taking too much of your energy. You've made too many commitments, right? And then we also have, besides overwork, there's overplay, right? Now it's like dancing, catching up with friends, going out all the time, full social schedule, doing all these things. Sex is another one, right? Having people, a lot of times they stop having sex, or it gets to be very infrequent. Not always, but that's very common for complex chronic health conditions. And then you're feeling better and your mojo comes back and you're rekindling, your relationship with your partner, or if you hadn't been dating and you're single, now you're dating again. And these things are great. They're healthy, right? You should be living your life. But in excess, it can tax your energy levels. So those are our 5 triggers, right? 5 families of trigger: immune triggers, digestive triggers, neuroadrenal triggers, blood circulation triggers, and then taxation, right? Basically depletion triggers. So you're using up your energy there. You need to be aware of these. Now, why did I start with symptoms? Well, because it's really quite interesting. We don't always get one-to-one transference, meaning if I get an immune system trigger, I won't always get immune system symptoms, right? Our body is not just like all these compartmentalized systems. Everything's a web together. So for example, what does that look like? Well, maybe you get a stress trigger, right? Something happens and somebody's rude to you and they're being mean for no reason, whatever it is. And it really irritates you and you feel confused by that and you're just upset, whatever it is. And then what happens is now you have gut pain, right? And all of a sudden you get diarrhea. Well, what happened was we had a trigger that entered stage 3, your neuroadrenals, and it went across and manifested as stage 2 symptoms, right? Digestive symptoms. Or maybe you have something else happen where you have exercise, right? You over-exercise. So you're in like stage 5 and you deplete yourself because you're feeling good and now you're going to overplay, right? So you're exercising a lot and you use up too much of your energy and then you get inflamed and you feel like you got a hangover basically, right? And now, so what we have is a stage 5 trigger that's going up and manifesting through the immune system. So now you've got like a headache and you're exhausted and you're swelling and you just like basically you can't get out of bed and you need to like rest. So not every trigger is going to just go straight through, right? Meaning stage 3, a stress trigger, it can cause tight jaw, tight shoulders, some trouble sleeping, of course, right? But it could also cause a digestive issue, for example. So picture your body as a web of these systems laid out: immune, digestive, neuroadrenal, blood circulation, and then we have this kind of boosting like hormones and mitochondria and all this where that's like the fun place, but it's where most people start, but that's the last place most people need to start. Most people need to start at stage 1. That's why I call it stage 1, because it's the first place most people need to start, right? But you're doing this, laying it all out, and you can see the triggers coming in and you can start to categorize these things, and especially if they start stacking up. So imagine one day where you are traveling is like the worst because you get a bunch of stuff put together, right? Traveling's fun, it's amazing, and it's awesome, and you should do it. And there's a price to be paid for it in terms of trigger exposure, because you'll get a different climate. You're around people with snot and germs and everything else. So you're getting stage 1 triggers. You're probably eating stuff that is not ideal for you, right? So you're getting also stage 2 triggers as well. You're getting a little bit of stress, most likely because you've got to be at the gate before the plane departs, and you're dealing with the security at the airport wants you to take off your shoes and do this happy hokey pokey dance and play Simon Says with them, and you're running late for your flight and all this stuff. So there's stress involved, right? And then you got stage 4, circulatory, right? Blood circulation, where you're now jammed into a seat, having kind of weird, you can't expand your body into all this stuff. So you're having this weird posture and you're stuck sitting. And when you go to get up on a plane and walk around, you can't really walk that much. And you're trying to pump your calves to get the blood going because that's getting triggered. And then you get to where you're going, maybe you're in a different time zone. So now your sleep is getting disrupted and now you're running out of energy a little bit that way because you didn't sleep as much as you normally would have, or you get where you're going and you've got a full itinerary of fun stuff and it's going to run your battery down. So traveling is like the ultimate Mac Daddy of stacked triggers because you're getting all of them. And if you travel, that'll show you where some of your weak spots are, because how it'll manifest in your system with your different symptom presentations. But also what I would say is traveling is a really good test. So people going through Modern Vitality, right? My world, my ecosystem I've built, I've got a program that takes people through these stages, and it's a really good sign. It's a really good sign when somebody can travel and not get set back and flared up. That's huge, because that means you're running the gauntlet of all the 5 triggers at once, and you're coming out going, okay, you know what? I still feel good. I'm ready. I'm ready to have a good trip. Yeah. It takes work to get there. You got to do it right, right? You got to do it right. You got to do it in order. You got to have a plan that makes sense and feels right. But when you get to the other side, boy, is it a sweet reward when you can test yourself that way and you don't get symptom flares, right? So in the meantime, if you're working on getting your health back, getting your life back from a complex chronic illness, consider the types of triggers that you're exposed to, right? And I didn't give you an exhaustive list here. I went into detail, but I mean, if you're a farmer and you're working with pesticides, right? Consider that an immune trigger. Of course, some kind of chemical abrasive agent that's exposing your body to it, right? So if you notice that you have pesticide exposure because you're out there spraying the crops today or whatever, and then later you're very irritable and grumpy and aggressive with people, and you're like, boy, that's out of character. Well, just know you may be getting a trigger that's entering your stage 1 and manifesting itself through stage 3, through your nervous system, right? Neuroadrenals, making you more grumpy, irritable. You're learning about yourself this way. You're learning how your body tends to route the triggers. And then you can start to try to minimize these things, because no matter what you do to build your health up, right? You don't want to be undermining it by having more things work against you. So oftentimes it's actually easier to remove blockages, to stop getting so many triggers at once and let your body start to repair itself without getting its legs chopped out from under it every 5 minutes, because you're getting exposed to trigger after trigger after trigger, right? I get it. It's like a catch-22. It's a frustrating place to be, but I will tell you there's a way out. There's a combination. And this is one thing to understand with your combinations. Try to minimize bad things from happening, right? I know this sounds obvious, and it should. Most of the things that I teach and share are intuitive, and I try to bring them down to what you would call common sense, but it's not necessarily common practice that people have, is to build a lifestyle around using these things that are logical and intuitive, right? We need to bring this up into your awareness so that you can then take the power over your situation a little bit more and stop working against yourself as you're trying to heal. So if you're dealing with a complex chronic health condition, I would invite you to join our group. You don't have to be alone. You can have company. There's wonderful people in here. We're international. We got folks from all over the world, and they're all working on going through the stages of healing. All kinds of health conditions, right? Your diagnosis, honestly, doesn't matter a ton to me. We're not exclusive, like it's just for people with fibromyalgia, right? Because there's all different kinds of fibromyalgia. There's all different kinds of Lyme disease. There's all different kinds of mold exposure. We're really looking for the right types of people with a mindset towards healing and growth and positivity that are willing to learn new things, right, in order to heal. That's what we do. We've got a great place, very positive, modern vitality solutions and support. You'll find the application link in the description below this video. And if I see your application come through and it looks great, like you look like you're gonna be a great fit for what we do, and our practices and perspectives can help you, I'll let you in as soon as I can. I keep the group cozy. The reason why I do that is so I know who I'm speaking to. And so when you ask me a question, which you can do in there, it's totally free to join as a guest. You can ask me anything you want. And I give my perspective. I want to know who I'm talking to. I want to be able to give a detailed and nuanced perspective that's bespoke to you and your situation. I can't do that with 10,000 people in the group, right? So I keep it cozy so that I know everybody's name and what they're going through, and I can give the best advice possible when asked. And we also have a vault full of videos that are interactive, so you can go through and figure out what's going on with you and your body and your whole situation from a whole systems perspective, so that you can start to figure out what your next steps should be to start healing and getting your life back, right? Because that's probably why you're here, right? You're not here necessarily to learn about medical theories and philosophies and how this stuff works. You're really here to get your life back. But you may have to expand your mind. You may need to develop some of this understanding of knowing how to identify your triggers, knowing how to learn your kind of system and where you tend to route those triggers and how they express. You may have to do some inner work with that. I'm going to bring you up to speed, as I have been, right? But at the end of the day, the goal is really about getting your life back. It's probably the most important thing you got to deal with right now. So let's focus on it. Let's get that out of the way, and then you can go back to having fun and making plans and being spontaneous and dancing and drinking and overworking and overplaying and whatever else you want to get back to, right? It's important. This is your life. Right? If illness is in your way of living your life, then we need to handle this. It's important. So I hope this video helps you. You might subscribe to the channel, like the video. That way you'll see more of this kind of stuff that'll help you along your path. And man, I hope this helps you. All right, let's get you feeling better. Cheers.